Nothing's going to mess with your financial confidence more than trying to compare your savings to someone else, a family member, a friend, a YouTuber who retired at 75 that's going to tell you all about it. Either way, your retirement number isn't a competition. So, what if you only retire with 1 million? We've got a listener question that came in today that presents this question to us. We're going to answer it with Ryan and talk about why your savings number might be different than the next person. Welcome in. Glad to have you on Perfect Game Retirement. Ben George with Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management. So, Ryan, we got a question today that I want to dive in here to. It's about saving, and it's a good one because everybody wants to know, hey, how much do I need to save for retirement? And again, you can't answer that directly on this video. You have to sit down with someone. But I want to kind of work through that process with you a little bit. I'm going to start with the question that kind of inspired this episode, and then we'll break it down. So here it is. I thought I'd done a good job of saving over the years, but it seems like I'm probably behind where I should be. My brother has nearly 2 million saved, and it seems that most of my colleagues at work are in a similar stratosphere. But my husband and I are barely over the $1 million mark, and we're now in our early 60s. What should we be doing to get caught up? So a great question here, Ryan, and I want to dive in this a little bit and start with that comparison right now, because I think that's the natural thing to do is see where you are compared to other people. But why is not the answer you should be taking here when thinking about what you need saved?
Yeah, so this is a great question. So again, financial institutions in their marketing departments have done a really good job of brainwashing you on what's your number. And again, so yeah, you get into that comparison trap. Another question I get a lot from clients is, okay, of all the clients you work with and my age, like, where do I stack up? Am I in the upper? I'm like, oh my gosh, this comparison game, you're never going to win the comparison game because there's always going to be someone who is doing better. So it doesn't matter. Like, that number is just different for everyone because your lifestyles are going to be different. How much debt that you owe is going to be different. Maybe you're debt free. Maybe this person with 2 million still has a mortgage payment that they'll have the rest of their life. That's, $2-3 grand a month, but yet you don't have a mortgage payment potentially. And there's that savings that you have on a monthly basis where you're not paying out a mortgage. So don't get caught in this comparison trap. Don't get caught up in, I have to have this because if I have $1 million, then I can take 4% out per year, which is $40,000. Then I got to pay tax on that. And there's so many things that add up. What is your Social Security benefits? What is your pension? So that number gets misleading. It's about income. How much income do you have? How much income is this producing? So if $1 million is great. Just think about the rest of the world, how much $1 million stacks up to most people. So again, we may live in these little bubbles where in comparison, maybe we're behind, but maybe you're not. That word behind, it's a relative term. So this is a great question to kind of peel back the layers to, but don't get caught up in the comparison trap.
Yeah, you can't do that. And I think if you're doing that, you're always going to be chasing Ryan. There's always somebody that's going to be better than you or have a bigger boat than you, right? Or whatever it is, you're always going to be chasing. So I think really the key is kind of reframing the conversation, isn't it? It's like, not, well, hey, what is enough for retirement? It's more, what is enough for you specifically?
Yeah, so this is where it kind of goes back to when we talk about the planning aspect. What is it for you? Not is it good for someone else? So kind of define like your lifestyle. What is your lifestyle? And maybe, you mentioned, someone's got a bigger boat than you, but maybe you have a boat, you're live on the lake and you're happy with it. And that's your activity. That's your extracurricular activity. So once you essentially buy that boat, yeah, there's always maintenance. Of course, the fuel that goes in boats is astronomically high. But maybe that's your recreation thing. And so once you have that paid off and there's no debt, then that's your lifestyle. That's your relaxation thing, taking the boat out. I know my sister, they just got a pontoon boat. They live on a lake and that's kind of their thing. They go in the evening when it's warm enough. They'll go in the evening, just kind of go a stroll around the lake and then boom, that's their thing. They enjoy doing that. So, and then just what is your spending plan? What's the fixed expenses that are coming out every single month? So it's a spending plan. So obviously there's variables to our spending plan, but what's coming out every single month? Is there no debt? Is there consumer debt? What is coming out every single month that we have to plan for. So, and then what other commitments do you have financially? Maybe you're still a big giver. There's things that you're thinking about. Longevity. Obviously no one's guaranteed tomorrow, but there's tendencies. You look at family history. You look at your own health. So how long is this money going to have to last? Maybe. And I know the question was, I think you said early 60s, but let's say someone's in their early 70s and they are just now retired, or maybe they just enjoy what they do. Well, if you're in your late 70s, that's a decade less than what this question was about. That's a decade less that your money needs to create an income. Well, in your early 70s, you may have another 20 years, maybe 30, but probably closer to 20 to 25 years. So that money's not going to have to last 40 years. It needs to last 20 to 25. So many different variables. And then kind of the biggest thing is, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? How much do you want to leave behind? So we have some people that have very specific goals of, hey, I want to leave this much. I want to leave $500,000 when upon my death. And so we can factor that in. We could come up with that plan. Hey, how successful are you going to be? Do you need to work a little bit longer? Do you need to save a little bit more? So there's so many things, so many different variables that you could do to reach those goals. But again, it's all about what your plan is, not what everybody else's.
Yeah, as you can see, there's a number of factors that go into finding your number. That's why, when we ask you questions, I'm sure that's why you say it depends, because there are so many different things that go into finding out that number, which is why you work with a team like Black Oak Asset Management, a good advising team that can help you work through this and find the targets you want. Because I think a lot of times, Ryan, you might not actually be behind, right? You might just be assuming that you're behind. I'm sure this is something you've seen firsthand in your office.
Yeah, everybody assumes that other people have their stuff together more, they've been saving more, and some people have, but don't be assumptive and just assume that's going to be the majority of people. If you're thinking about these things and being conscious of how much you have and how much income you're going to need, you're probably doing pretty well. You're probably ahead of most people. So yeah, just assuming that you're behind just because you think you are, because again, you did a Google search and how much money do I need to have when I retire? So yeah, like Ben, you said, a lot of times my response is it depends. It sounds like I'm a very non-committal person when it comes to, but that's people just asking me in general. I was at the airport not too long ago, and we had huge delays at the airport that we're at. And just this random guy, super nice guy, we start striking up conversations. And then the question came up, hey, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, do I tell him or do I make something up? So I said, I have my own financial advisory business. And oh man, then the questions, bam, bam, bam. And so I was just trying to be like respectful, but at the same time, like, I'm not giving suggestions. I'm not answering these questions. I'm just like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And what do you think? I'm like, I don't know, man. It just depends. What you're doing is fine. What you're doing is fine. So again, it's different for everybody. So don't assume that you're behind just because you heard someone else say this, or, oh, this person has this. Maybe they do have that much money. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're just lying to you to make themselves sound better. But again, it's your portfolio, your economy, not everybody else's.
Well, I admire your patience answering those questions in a delayed situation where I'm sure your patience is it's a pretty low level at that point. So I admire that you actually taken the time to answer those questions. All right. So look, we haven't really answered the question yet. We kind of give us some background on the situation and things you got to think through before you can even figure out that answer. But let's just say that you've done the work with this person, Ryan, and you realize, okay, maybe you are a little bit behind and you do need to play catch up, which is what part of the question. What are some things that you can do in order to play catch up a little bit if you do need to make up some savings grounds over the next 5 or 6 years?
So these are great questions. So what's the solutions? Again, we gave kind of the background of it, but yeah, what are the solutions? And most of them are not like super complex, but these are the things we kind of run through with people. So are you maxing out what you can save? Obviously, there's new contribution limits for 2026. The new tax code's got some other benefits as well, but are you maxing out your 401ks? You have the ability to max out your IRAs, your HSAs. Do your best with that. So your savings rate's almost a better indication than your rate of return. So your savings rate, try to just pile in as much money as you can. Um, do you need to delay retirement? Maybe you're shooting for a certain age, and then okay, maybe just delaying it by a year or two. It's amazing what kind of impact it can have on your long term planning in your portfolio. So maybe it's another year, maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 3 years, maybe not. But that's always the solution. So save more, maybe retire a little bit later than you anticipated. What kind of reductions, what kind of modifications or reductions can you make on your spending plan? Maybe there's some debts you can maybe knock out before you do officially retire. But there's things you can be conscious of. I know we've talked about inflation in previous episodes, so sometimes it's hard to cut back from a monthly budget standpoint because of inflation being so high. But what are some things that we can knock out? What are some subscriptions that we have that we're like, yeah, I don't use or I don't need that? Those things certainly add up. But then probably one of the biggest things is do I kind of semi part-time retire and part-time work? That seems to be what a lot of our clients do. They're still mentally sharp. They still like what they do. They just don't want to be stuck having to do certain amount of hours or having to report to an office. They want to do consulting work. They want to do their own thing, or they work 20 to 30 hours a week. So that's usually the best solution for a lot of people, because if you work a little bit longer and still enjoy doing what you're doing, I have some people do that for almost the duration of their retirement if they truly love and enjoy what they do. So those are some solutions. Again, maxing out retirement accounts or just investment accounts, maybe delay retirement, maybe reduction in spending plans as far as when we get to retirement. And then, kind of part-time work when you get to retirement. So a lot of solutions there. Maybe it's a combination of some of all those, but there's definitely ways to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good thing, right? You can take the kind of the guesswork out of it, the comparisons, get rid of those, start the planning process to know exactly what your answer is and what steps you need to take to make sure you are in the position you want to be by that date that you want to retire. So all that can be done with a team like Black Oak Asset Management. If you want to get in touch with Ryan, speakwithryan.com. You can schedule a time right now to meet with him, but also everything is in the show description as well. But some good things to think about and a great question. I know this is one that a lot of people ask. So hopefully this video helps you kind of work through that process and understand what you're going to need for retirement. Ryan, as always, appreciate it.
Thank you.